Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, normally Parks and Socials edition for the week of 10/4/23. But this week, instead of parks, John's going to talk a little bit about his experience at the Retro Magic event from this last weekend that was at the Disney's Yacht Club. And with that, John, take it away.
Well, as you and I had talked about previously, I've heard of these retro magic Disney events, and I always thought to myself, I really would like to, go to one, and I live very close by, and I'm like, why don't you just go to one? So I ended up buying a general admission ticket, and that's all that was available at the time. It was the only thing that was available. So I figured I'll give it a try. And like we said, it's at the Yacht Club. And of course, they said Disney asked that you don't park at the Yacht Club because they have other events going on, which apparently are more important than this one. I don't know. But again, Disney hospitality. My daughter's reading a book in college called Be Our Guest that teaches the legendary Disney hospitality. It's like they tell me to go find another place to park and walk a mile to go to the convention at their hotel. So I think they need to read that book at Disney, honestly. But
I was going to say, was that like copyright from like 10 years ago or what?
a long time ago. That's basically what my daughter was saying. She was like, Disney does not follow their own advice anymore. So, and it's true. So this was on Saturday night. I parked at the Hollywood Studios, and I walked there, and luckily it was a beautiful day. It was fairly breezy. I wasn't sure what to expect, so I literally brought an extra shirt to change when I got to the Yacht Club, because I figured it's Florida, and if I have to walk to the Yacht Club from there, and it's not going to work out well. So I did that. I went in, changed my shirt at the Yacht Club. Then I walked over to the convention center. And like I said, I didn't know what to expect. It was a very crowded lobby, everybody waiting. And I picked up my packet, and they gave me, some stickers and this watch and little stuff like that. Then I went and found a seat and sat down. And I'm just going to get into, let's see. Well, before I go too far, one of the things that they did an introduction and stuff, but one of the things they had was, I don't know if it's the real one that they've somehow got. I don't think so, or they remade it, but they have the Rainbow Tunnel at the end of Journey into Imagination. And again, I don't know exactly where they got it from, or if they made it or what. But there's pictures next to it of Michael Jackson and all the photos and stuff he did, and they said Michael Jackson really liked that Rainbow Tunnel, like that. He really thought that was cool and spent a lot of time there and stuff.
It looks a little tattered, so I wonder if that isn't the original, or maybe they've used this a couple times or something, but that really looks like it.
Yeah, they said they had to go and get it out of storage, so I didn't talk to anybody about it, but and I was gonna say too, next to they had like a convention part here where they showed a lot of stuff. This particular event, like they've had these before where, they have it with the Magic Kingdom, with whatever. This event was focused on the 40th of Epcot. So it was an Epcot focused event. And we were there on the 30th and the 1st. So we were there on when Epcot was 40 and 41. So like we were there for both. But they had a lot of stuff about the the construction of Epcot and all the news articles and pictures of horizons and a lot of really cool classic stuff there. And I won't be able to get into the specifics of it, but they had stuff there that was that was created before Epcot was built, like during the planning stages. And one of them is this super long picture here. Like it's basically a layout of what Epcot was going to be. And again, it doesn't even fit in a picture. It's too long, just a long thing with all the parts in it.
That's like concept art right there is what it looked like.
Yeah, this is like early concept art for what Epcot was supposed to look like. Let's see, we have a 10-year sign, the continuation of a dream, Epcot Center. Oh, that's actually a license plate. This is the one that I wanted. Epcot Center, the 21st century begins October 1st, 1982. I thought that was really cool. And I don't even know if you can get that now or if that's like an original one. So, because there was a lot of original things all over. And they had some costuming and some stuff from the 2000 Millennium Celebration, some costumes from that were there on display. But anyway, all that stuff was cool. But, well, I was going to say, I walked out of the bathroom and Tony Baxter's walking by. It's like, huh.
Wow.
It's kind of weird. And again, I didn't bother him. I'm not the kind of guy to be like, let me tell you what I think. It's like, I really, if I would have got VIP tickets, I could have met more of the Imagineers and the people. And next time I probably will. But again, I don't have anything to say to them. I feel dumb even talking to them, like who cares what I have to say? They literally built Epcot. It's like, what am I going to say? Oh, you know what? I don't like stuff. It's like, yeah. I just felt very insignificant. I was like, I don't think I want to talk to these people.
That's the way my friend is an autograph hound, and we go to conventions all the time because he loves doing that type of thing. He's the same exact way, actually. He won't step in line when they're empty lines because he feels awkward, like he'll have to have a conversation with them.
The funny thing is, with Tony Baxter, who's one of my favorite Imagineers because he's really based. Like he's current, he's involved in unbelievable projects, but he is so based, meaning he will tell you exactly what he thinks, and he's not afraid to say things. Like most Imagineers talk around everything. We love everything. It's like, but I ran into him again in the main building. I was coming out of the bathroom, and he's coming in. I'm like, every time I go near a bathroom, I'm literally running into Tony Baxter. I'm like, and again, I just said, excuse me, and got out of his way. But that was really cool. And then, so on the first night, they had an introduction, and this was like at 6:30. It's only a couple hours long the first night. A lot of it was around this guy here. His name is Jerry Reese, and I guess he's a director, producer, writer for live action, animation, all kinds of stuff. And he was supervising effects editor on Tron, and he's involved in Hollywood stuff all over the place. And the reason he was there, he took Cranium Command, and I guess it was a complete mess. Like the executives at Epcot came in and looked at it, and they were like, this is not good. Like this is it's not a good show. It just was terrible. So they called him in, and he is the kind of guy that records everything, like literally with his movie camera and stuff. And I can really identify with that because I do that a lot too. But he recorded so much behind the scenes, the process that he did to make that show, like everything from coming up with the ideas for the show to the casting. Like he recorded with his home movie camera what he had the different people do as to why he cast the people he did and what they did or why what they didn't do. And so we basically got to see a behind the scenes footage narrated with the guy right in front of you telling you how everything happened to put together a show like that. And on top of it, the guy next to him is the kid from Cranium Command. That's the kid who was in it when he was.
Wow.
They haven't seen each other in like 30 years, and so he was there too. And the cool thing is, Retro Magic made a they made a version of Cranium Command. They took people's home movies. They used CGI. They got the original voice actors, including that kid, including the guy who played the sergeant guy, and they modified it a little to include Retro Magic just to show you that it was real. And they recreated the entire Cranium Command movie right there, like on video. And I was like, wow, that was very impressive. And just to get ahead of myself a little bit, they did the same thing for Journey into Imagination. And Tony Baxter was actually there watching it. And he said that is the closest thing that he has seen ever to actually seeing the ride again, because he helped make it. And he was like, I guess that's how he got involved with these guys. Like he wasn't really, he doesn't do a lot of this kind of stuff, but he really liked what they do here. But anyway, this Jerry Reese guy was funny, great at telling stories, really pulled you in. And, I feel like I know so much about what it takes to create an Epcot attraction that it's so much more than you would think. Like it literally has so many parts to it. Like I said, there's casting, there's recording, there's music, there's stories, and that's all beyond actually building the sets and programming the animatronics. And then they're fighting over time. The one person is dressing the animatronic, another person needs to modify where it is, and they're all getting in each other's way, and it's just amazing. But
Did you know, like I just looked up Jerry Reese and I've heard of him before, but did you know that he was actually mentored from the age of 16 by Eric Larson, who was one of Disney's 9 old men. Yep. And he was trained at Cal Institute of Arts, and was actually classmates with John Lasseter, Brad Bird, Tim Burton, among many others. But he was also involved with The Fox and the Hound, The Brave Little Toaster, and then the rides that you're talking about, like Cranium Command, of course, but he also was involved with Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, Rock and Roller Coaster, the Alien Encounter, a lot of other stuff too, like stuff from all over the international parks. And this guy, you heard from this guy, but he even did a documentary called Back to Neverland on the Peter Pan film that Robin Williams did. And
pictures of him and Robin Williams going up on the screen and stuff too. Like this guy knows, he's been around. And
yeah,
the crazy thing is, all of these people that were there this weekend were, and to me, I felt like I was in a whole nother world of people that are just on another level. And I'm like, it's like, it was just weird. But the reason he concentrated on Cranium Command is because this is all about the building of Epcot. But I am glad you brought up all that other stuff just to make my point. of how impressive this guy is. And the cool thing too, through the whole event, his thing was on Saturday night. He was there all day Sunday from start to finish at the table with the other Imagineers. He was recording everything still. He had his phone. He's standing up. He's getting stuff. He's recording everything. And I'm like, he just can't stop. He's I don't know, maybe he's going to make a documentary on the thing, but he just and it's funny because that's exactly what he was doing when he was making Cranium Command, 30 or 40 some years ago. He was doing the same thing, but he had his big video camera, and it even showed him in his hotel room. He got an idea, and all of a sudden he said, he takes out his camera and he records what his idea is going to be. Like he swerves in front of the mirror, and then he puts the camera down into the toilet and he goes, toilet or a trash can. I'm not sure which one, and then it shows later on how that became when the bully picks up the kid and he spins him around and then he dumps him in the garbage. And it's like, that's when he came up with it in his room. And I was like, man, that is just amazing. Like the processes you hear about from these guys, I was absolutely amazed. And again, we could talk about Jerry Reese all night, but I'm going to, for the sake of time, I am going to cut that short because he's the main thing we did that day. We did another guy came up too named Ted Linhart, and he had rare Epcot documents, and he was going through, all the stuff that he had that you can come and look at and ask him, and so that was pretty cool too. But so the first night though, the main thing was Cranium Command and Jerry Reese. So I did enjoy that, but I was like, man, I drove all the way there. I walked 1.25 miles to get in. I was sitting there. And then when I went to leave, my thought was maybe I could see Epcot forever. It's going to happen in like 15 minutes. I'm right next to it. As I'm walking, I feel rain start to hit me. And then it starts getting stronger, and I'm like, mother. And I'm like, I got to walk 1.25 miles to get to my car at this point, because the rain that we've been getting lately has been so intense. And it's not the passing showers. It's like, 2 hours of pouring rain. It's like, so anyway, I got soaked walking back. I got some good pictures. I mean, I thought that was pretty. That's during the rain.
Great. Yeah, I commented about on that one on your Facebook post. It looks so pretty.
So yeah, then this is when I finally got back to the parking lot. I did a quick look. Fireworks happening over at Epcot that I didn't get to. I don't know. I think that's Epcot because Magic Kingdom I think was straight, but
yeah.
So, but anyway, I didn't get to see that, and I'm terrible at falling asleep, so I wanted to get home anyway. So anyway, the next day I got up very early and I went to the parks, parked at Hollywood Studios again. This is 8:25. And if you remember, it takes me about 20 minutes to walk there. And I'm like, the Skyliner is pretty empty. It's even pre-park opening. I'm going to take the Skyliner because I can get some footage on my phone. I'll probably get my own car because it's empty. And so I did that. And I got my own, a nice clear video by myself going out. But it ended up taking a lot longer than I had anticipated because, by the time we landed on the Skyliner from Epcot, let's see, it's 8:44. So it's already been 20 some minutes and I'm still on the Skyliner. Like I would have been at the event by now. And then I get off and then I have to walk all the way down and back. And so, breakfast was at like 8 o'clock or something. And I got there just about 9. Like nobody else was there. You can see nobody else is waiting. Everybody's already in there and seated. So I'm like, great. Um, so much for trying to save time. But anyway, I found a seat in the back. I did not have breakfast because it was I was in a seat where I had to squeeze past people and very difficult to get in, and it was like in long rows. I wasn't at a table, and so I was like, if I get up to have breakfast now, like I still had about 20 minutes. I could have got something. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to keep pushing past everybody. And I'm like, I usually don't eat breakfast anyway, but breakfast looked very good. Like it looked like top of the line Disney stuff, like anything you could want. But I didn't eat anything, so. And then let's see.
Is that Bob Gurr?
Oh yeah, he was in the first thing in the morning. So
Wow.
and there was somebody named Tammy Tucky there who did a lot of singing too. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she was in a lot of stuff. And Billy Flanagan, he is the longest running entertainer at Disney. Like he had like a 40-year career of he played different roles, including Ken. When Ken and Barbie was there, everybody clapped for that. He was in the what is it? The Hoop-de-Doo Review for a lot of years, and he did so much stuff there. But he's like an entertainer, singer, dancer. So Tammy Tucky and him did a song. I think they did a "We've Just Begun the Dream," like an original Epcot song. So that's pretty cool. They literally did songs up there. And the very first panel of the day was Bob Gurr, Steve Alcorn, and Bob Holland. So again, Bob Gurr was one of the first people up there for the day. So that's pretty cool. I've never seen it in person.
But it's an Epcot that, as Walt would say, with Disneyland, when it opened, it'll never be finished. So I'd like to come back in another 100 years and see the Epcot by the end of this century.
So you come back and see the Epcot in another 100 years. I don't know. He might. He never stops. But a lot of the other guys had stuff to say about Bob Gurr too, like the old guys who were, really high up and involved in crazy projects. They were like, yeah, Bob Gurr always flying off to some other country when we're doing work. Like they all had like comments about him, But,
I think it's going to turn out Walt was going to have the experimental prototype community tomorrow.
Can you hear that?
But it turns out this is a living, changing experiment with every kind of ideas, not necessarily focused on the community. Where the original idea that he had basically was he would provide the land, provide the infrastructure, and invite all kinds of creative companies around America to come here.
Basically, Bob Gurr went on to say why Epcot didn't work and why you couldn't do what Walt wanted to do. And I'm sure he's probably right, but in my mind, I'm like, the people who make the biggest difference in the world are the ones when they're told you just can't because of this, this, and this, you say, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to keep going. And I have a feeling Walt would have been that guy who said, shh, watch, we're going to do it, and a lot of the stuff he said had to do with, voting and government. I'm like, Walt already had that taken care of. He put up a couple trailers. He's like, we're going to have a fake city where we control everything. And he already took care of a lot of the problems. They said there were reasons they couldn't have it, which is why the Reedy Creek Improvement District was there, But anyway, after listening to Bob Gurr for a while, he is amazing. But he's you can kind of get the feeling when you listen to Bob Gurr and you listen to all the other guys who built the stuff that there is a difference debates, like Bob Gurr is more like the BS guy, he always has something to say guy. But he really, the other guys were the ones that actually did a lot of stuff, at least with Epcot. I don't know, Bob Gurr, maybe he did more with Disneyland and Magic Kingdom or something, but with Epcot, I heard there were a lot of stories like the original idea for Spaceship Earth. Bob Gurr was the one saying you can't do it, it's not going to work, and it's not the one they used. But basically, when they did Spaceship Earth, all of the wheels wear out, and they still do to this day. And the solution was just buy a lot of wheels and replace them as needed. And Bob Gurr was like, I told him they're going to have problems. And look, he said that vindicated him, because he walked away from the project. I guess Bob Gurr said, I don't want anything to do with this, and he flew off to somewhere else. So, but anyway, he kept mentioning about he's glad to hear about all the problems on Spaceship Earth, because he told him that it was going to happen. But he is a funny guy, but again, he seems like the guy always has something. And I didn't like hearing about the apologist about why Epcot's still okay. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, Bob. I don't know. It's I couldn't really. But anyway, being in the same room with Bob Gurr and all these other guys, it's still amazing though. Like, this guy actually knew Walt Disney. It's like,
yeah, Walt hired him personally.
With Walt Disney, it's like, I'm sure he was a young punk kid at the time, but
he was a motorhead. He was like a garage monkey, and he was working on a car, and someone introduced him to Walt, and Walt was like, want a job?
Anyway, I'm sitting in a room all day long with Bob Gurr, Jerry Reese, Tony Baxter, and I'm just like, it just seems surreal. Like this immediately pulled me in. And this guy here, his name was Bob Holland. He's not an Imagineer or anything. He's kind of like the project manager for Epcot. And he could not believe like they even had the job. Like he was telling stories about how terrible the soil is there and all the problems they had with what they call muck. Like, it's like this spongy material and all the stuff they had to do. He said the union guys only worked during the day, but Disney said, but you guys can work 24 hours. So we need you here all night to watch the sand piles that are pushing down on the muck. And it's like the stories he told were just great. And this guy was involved in everything, like all the Spaceship Earth, all the problems. He's not an architect. He might be an architect. I think he's an engineer.
He's an architect. He actually, and I know who he is because he's one of the more famous guys involved in Disney that actually is a Penn State alumnus, which, I attended, a year of Penn State in my early years, didn't graduate, but yeah, he graduated from Penn State in architecture, and he did work for the government and stuff like that. But he's connected. He did work with Disneyland and, Disney World, and he is, they consider him an Imagineer, but he was an architect. So,
I always forget that an Imagineer can be in many different things. It's not just making a ride, so but anyway, he was one of my favorites because his job, he wasn't creative, meaning it wasn't his job to come up with all this stuff. It was he was the more down to earth guy who has to pull it all together and actually make things happen. Like, he has to oversee building these unbelievable buildings that seem impossible and do it in a crazy amount of time. And man, the stories he told were just amazing. And again, he's up there with Bob Gurr and Steve Alcorn, and man, the stories they told were just crazy. And Steve Alcorn, I'm gonna double check so I don't. He's a guy who was in Imagineering starting in 1982. He was a software and electronics guy at a time where there wasn't software and electronics. So him and his wife were like electrical engineers. They had to make all their own stuff. So he's the guy programming and coming up with a way to make these rides do what they're supposed to do when there is no computers, you know? So he was amazing too. His wife didn't go up, but she was there. She doesn't like public speaking, but her name is Linda Alcorn. And from what he had said, every single project at Epcot that Linda was involved with opened on time and actually worked. The only ones in the whole park. So the Disney company really appreciated her a lot too. Like they started to grab her then, like, we need you to look at another thing, you know, like because she's the only one who really could make things work. But again, a behind the scenes person who still doesn't like public speaking. She was there if you wanted to meet her, talk to her, whatever in person, but she didn't want to go up on stage. So I can appreciate that too. You know, that's a definite understandable thing. So anyway, it started out with Bob Gurr, Steve Alcorn, and Bob Holland, and that was a very, very good look at Epcot, at building it, designing it, and again the site work. They showed diagrams and pictures, and you know, a lot of this stuff I think came from their personal stuff too. 24/7 resident engineering coordination. It's like, man, the stuff that they did.
Man.
But yeah, the and Spaceship Earth too. Like they went all out from the design for the building to everything about it, and they also showed site pictures with times through everything too. Like they were like 3 months to go. It's all still mud. It's like, and they had all these signs up everywhere saying, you can do it. You can do it. It's like these signs were everywhere all around Epcot saying, you can do it. And just amazing. There's Bob.
Well, within a couple of days, General Motors calls, and within a week, we had communication between General Motors and Disney like you couldn't believe. They fly out and talk to us. Even the German video.
Oh yeah, I guess Ford was originally going to sponsor World of Motion. Bob Gurr set it up with GM, and I guess GM is a bigger company and much bigger and well respected. He said once Bob Gurr, who was personal friends with the CEO, and went there, talked to him, schmoozed him, told him how great Epcot's going to be and stuff, he convinced them to get on board. And all the other people up there involved agreed too. They said Bob Gurr pretty much made Epcot with that one deal, because once he did it, then Kodak was like, we're in. Ma Bell or 18th, there, all the huge companies were like, we'll do it too. GM's in. Everybody else wanted to go in. So Bob Gurr knocked down that barrier about, and again, he may not have like created rides or anything, but man, he's a very important guy, and the stuff he did and the way he does stuff, amazing. And again, he's like in his 90s and he's still commanding. When he talks, it's like everyone in the room is like leaning forward and just listening, you know. It's like he's an amazing personality, you know. So, and again, I never really did a lot, like researched Bob Gurr a lot. I saw him because he's all over Disney stuff, you know. He's always selling little carts and doing, you know, he's all over.
Yeah.
But again, I never actually heard him talk or, you know, listened. And
fun fact about Bob Gurr, he's really into tiki stuff. I know a lot about Bugger. I've watched all kinds of videos and read books about him, involving him and stuff. He is some character. I can understand why people were completely engaged. So
Yeah, well,
I love the fact that you got to see him and got to hear him speak at this event.
if I would have had the VIP ticket, I could have interacted with Bob Gurr, because then I would have been in a private meet and greet where he would have just been, hey, how's it going? I would have been like, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, thanks. Awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't really have anything to say, but I would talk to him, like, I didn't want to wait in line to talk to these guys. And I could have met them all, but I'd just be like, they'd be like, you want to get a picture? I'd be like, not really. You want an autograph? I'd be like, for what? Not really. It's like, I don't know. I just want to stand here a second.
I probably would have got Tony Baxter's autograph on, my Splash Mountain album, probably. So
yeah, well, I don't really have a lot of collectible stuff like that. I should. Next time I gotta think it through better. But anyway, after that, there was there was another one at 10:10, and the next thing, and this was Jim Sarno, who was a modeling guy for Imagineering. And he worked on the SMRT-1 robot at Epcot. He did Listen to the Land, Wonders of Life, Journey into Imagination. And that's like a lot of his Epcot stuff. So he did a lot of the initial modeling, and he was around Epcot, during this whole thing. And they'd call him over and say, we need this, you got to change that. And he went through a lot of personal pictures he had too of models that he made. And one of the things I remember he said is he had to make a model of a crane, and he was concerned about that. He said, usually if they make you model something that's not that exciting, it means you're not going to be working there much longer. He said, when they put you on trees, that means you're probably going to be let go in about a week. But anyway, they did the crane because and he emphasized this a lot. When he got to Imagineering, he said they did everything the same way that Walt did it. They did models, real models, like they would make the ride in real size. And they had a full Epcot model, and they had him make the crane because they needed to know where the crane would fit. So it's almost like playing with toys. They would be like, all right, where can this crane, how's it going to get where it needs to get? So that's how exact they were with their modeling, that, they can model a crane, and it doesn't just look like a crane. It's a crane in correct proportion to Epcot. And man, those guys were just so good with that kind of stuff. And he went through a lot of stuff that he had to redo initial models and what changed. And I don't have a picture of it, but in the land pavilion, one of the funny things he said was there used to be this like carved mural thing in the land, and it had fish in it and stuff. He said he carved his name. He hid his name in it, and he highlighted it, said Jim Sarno. It's not there anymore. He said that's probably why they got rid of it eventually. They were like, you can't have your name on something in the middle of Epcot. But he showed a picture and he highlighted the way he made. He said that the executives heard about it, but none of them were able to see where it was because they probably would have made him get rid of it. But he was able to get his name on something inside Epcot. So And I guess there was like a fountain inside the land pavilion too. I never saw it, but he designed that too. And
I think it's the fountain outside where the sign is. You know where I mean?
well,
Because I was just when you introduced him, when you said about it, I see a picture of him like sitting in front of the fountain out front that says the land featuring Soren, and it has like water coming out of it. So I'm wondering if that isn't what it was.
well, or it could be something that's just not there anymore.
It could be, yeah, very much so.
But anyway, Jim Sarno was really, really cool too, and this is his. He brought this there. I talked to him. Actually, I did talk to Jim Sarno. He was an Imagineer, but I asked him about this, and I said, "Are you selling reproductions of that?" And he said, "Oh, no, that's mine. This is what they gave to all the staff after they made it, because they kept saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it." And then once it opened, everybody involved got a little card from Mickey saying, we did it. And he said, I'm not sure what the legality is of me selling copies of that or what. I told him, as long as you keep it under 6 figures, I don't think Disney will bother you. People sell all kinds of stuff, And he goes, I don't think I would definitely be under 6 figures. So I did talk to Jim Sarno. So, hey, I'm working on it.
As it turns out, by the way, there was a fountain in the middle of the land pavilion.
I saw it on pictures. But I didn't take any pictures of the pictures for that.
That is crazy. I don't remember that being there, but it's definitely there. It was definitely there. It almost looks like a wedding cake thing or something, but it's pretty cool. There's like little benches and little like fast food tables around it almost. So,
and he designed a lot of this stuff. Like he basically, anything they needed a model of, he said the difference with modeling and the other stuff, he didn't go on a project and he's just on it forever. He could be on something for a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever it takes. He doesn't know, and he could be pulled anytime and somewhere else. And so his job was pretty amazing too. And again, he went into how he got the job. And I have to say, the biggest thing about a lot of these guys was they were so appreciative and so honored by the job that they had, that they got to work for the Walt Disney Company, and they got to do, like, they were getting choked up left and right just talking about how the job changed their life. And I'm like, I feel like the people working there now wouldn't think that. I think they'd be saying, I'm so great that Disney wanted me because I'm the greatest. And instead, you have these humble people saying the opportunity changed their life. They're so grateful, this and that. I feel like it's the opposite now. And again, I don't have any proof of that, but just the little tidbits that I hear and see, man, these guys were the best, and it showed in what they did. So.
I'll also just add to that these guys were Imagineers. Like, they were hired by the company, whereas a lot of people that are involved in projects today are outsourced. They're not actual employees of the company. So, these jobs are now that there's a mixture of outsourced and Imagineering. These were actual employees of WED. So, This is great.
Well, then it was time for. Oh, wait a minute. I guess there was more. Oh, all right. Yeah, one of the things one of the guys who came up next was Hugh Darley, and he's a new guy. He's new in doing this kind of stuff. One of the guys from Retro WDW was talking to him, and he's like a Southern accent guy, and I guess he started talking, and they basically said, you need to come to one of these events and share some of these stories. Like, it's amazing. He was a guy he was an artist. He did murals. painting and murals, and he did pretty much everything at Epcot. And he's going around doing all this stuff. His stories were absolutely hilarious and funny. One of the funniest was, he said that there was this grumpy old guy who would always pull up and kind of smirk at him and ask him questions and stuff. And he's like, it must be one of the managers, whatever. And over time, this guy got to like him though, and they kept showing the picture of him standing there like looking mean. And he said one day, another coworker was like, "What are you doing going out to lunch with Dick Nunes?" And he said, "Who?" He goes, "I don't know Dick Nunes. He's the president of the company. What are you, crazy?" And he's like, turns out he's been hanging out with Dick Nunes for weeks. And he said the rest of his career at Disney, they called him the spy. They were like, "We saw you in his office. We know. Why were you there this morning?" He's like, "He called me in," and they just assume he's spying for Dick Nunes everywhere. But he was the funniest guy ever. The stories he had was amazing. And again, I'm sure he will be at another one, because he was just a master of telling stories, like just so good. And he was some, Southern kid. I guess he saw, Disney World on TV or whatever, and saw something about Imagineers, and he said, "That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do." And one day, I guess he was out painting a billboard, and his dad pulled up. He was like in his, he was like a 20 something, and said, "Oh, Walt Disney sent you a letter, Walt Disney Company." And so he went and read it and called him. He said they offered him like $5,000 less a year than he was already making. And he said, "I told him no," and hung up the phone. And he said, then he sat there and he said, "That was the longest, like 10 minutes of my life before they called me back and offered me more." He's like, he said, "I couldn't believe I just said no to working for the Walt Disney Company." And he was an artist. Like, that's what he does. He paints murals and pictures. And it's like, so anyway, he went on to do so much there. Like he is, he had his art everywhere at the original Epcot. So he was a big part of getting it finished on time. So that was very cool. And yeah, I didn't take enough pictures of this stuff in the morning. I think I got so into just listening to him that I ended up not taking pictures, because I didn't even intend to do this review. So I really didn't think it through that well. So anyway, let's see. All right, then we had David Fighton and Tad Stones. They walked through the creation of World of Motion. So they went through as to the idea, how it was created, what was presented, what GM wanted, and like they went back and forth, and the idea changed as they built it up. And then I don't remember the guy's name. He wasn't there, but it was one of the famous Imagineers involved in it. He actually had, privately, he owned a train that he restored himself, all the old cars and stuff. So there was a lot of love put into World of Motion, like all those vehicles and scenes and everything. And they went through, the placement of stuff, the different scenes, like they really went in depth. Again, I never rode Horizons that are World of Motion, but man, I feel like I know an awful lot about it now. So, but anyway, that was great too. Then we went on lunch break, which was 90 minutes. So of course I walked all the way to Hollywood Studios, because Epcot reservations are full, because I still have to get a reservation because it's a weekend, and it was before 2. So, but anyway, I went to ABC Commissary and got a Greek chicken salad, and my goodness, it was good. Hummus, chicken, and instead of the white plain cubes. It's actually grilled chicken with flavor to it. It tasted good. It was on a pita roll and extremely good. That's at the ABC commissary. And I walked next door with authority to record at the sci-fi diner, even though I shouldn't. But hey, they don't know. As long as you're not timid, they'll think you're there for a reason. Anyway, I got a cup of coffee and said, "Oh, I got to get back." And
Rain.
it just started pouring, and I'm like, "Oh, good. My shoes weren't wet today. I really did want to fill them up." So I took the Swan Boat, or the French boat, which took forever because it ended up taking a long time. And then the rain stopped, and I was like, "Oh, I should have walked again." I'm sitting there in this boat while I see people walking and going. It's like I could have been that guy who just walked away, you know. But anyway, I got back a little bit wet. And the next one, the next part was about Spaceship Earth. And I won't go into too much detail because, again, this is one you could probably talk about all day long. But this one was with Peggy Farris, Richard Vaughn, and John DeCure Jr., with Bob Gurr chiming in all the time to give his opinion about things. And I have to say, let's see, one of the Peggy Farris was one of the very impressive parts of this presentation. She had a 50-year career at Disney. She was a hostess on the Storybook Land Canal at Disneyland, but her experience, let's see, she ended up in creative development, a creative development executive for Disneyland Paris. That was her last job. But as far as Epcot goes, she was basically the person who researched everything for Spaceship Earth. And what she did was absolutely fascinating because I never realized it. And I got to see so many parts of Spaceship Earth that I've never seen anywhere else. Like this here, you know, the part where you start going backwards down the hill and you wonder, it looks like a mountain, like shadows. And I am always like, what is that? This is it here. It's structural steel with braces going up to the top, which gives it that mountainy, rocky look in the darkness, you know. I always wondered what that was, though, and they had lots of pictures of it. But so I guess John DeCure Jr., he was like the director / writer of the actual ride, like setting everything up. He's a film guy who did loads and loads of stuff. And then Davey Fighton was he was the guy behind how it all worked, I guess. But you wouldn't believe the stories they had with Spaceship Earth about like the sound bars getting hit, grinding down under the tracks, like all this crazy stuff. I guess going backwards down was a huge problem for engineering. And that's when Bob Gurr would chime in and say, "I told you it wouldn't work." And I was right. And, you know, he's on the sidelines chiming in. But anyway, this Peggy Farris, she not only researched every detail that went into Spaceship Earth, she detailed the languages, even the languages that were dead languages. She found a expert who studied ancient languages and this and that, and even the cavemen, they did the best the cavemen they made up. I forget exactly what it was, but the crazy thing is she knew what the chief shaman caveman guy said. She knew the words. She's like the mama gaga, and she knew she spoke the Latin for the Rome scene. She said they had to find the Phoenician scene because again, that language doesn't really exist like it did, and so she had to find an expert to say what that should sound like. And again, she knew all the words. I'm like, and there's something written in the Roman scene. Every single detail in there was researched and meticulously placed to make perfect sense. She said she wanted to make sure that anybody who may have knowledge about any of this stuff in there, that they're not going to get any letters saying, actually, you got this wrong, or this wasn't right. And she said the part with the uh, what is it? The telegraph part. He's typing about the golden spike or something. The calendar matches the day where that's hanging on the back wall that you can't even see that the golden spike was hammered in. Like it's that thorough. The books in the scene about Islamic scholars, they researched from old pictures in how their libraries would look and how their books would stack. Like even something as small as that. Like I I might be wrong, but I feel like they would not go so far today. Like this woman researched everything to do with Spaceship Earth. And maybe that's why when you go through it, you really feel like it's something special, like it really is.
It's like an authentic experience, and that makes sense. That's why they did the research and did all this stuff.
And I said something like that before. Like I did a close up of like something of Spaceship Earth, and I said Disney. They even are concerned about the details you'll probably never see. Like that's what makes things special. And again, I don't think they really care now. But back in the day, I would hear all kinds of stories about, well, if you ever went around and looked, like there's parts that are complete that you'll never see because you're not, you know what I mean? Like just they would go so far out of their way. But anyway, everybody in this was great. John DeCure was going back and forth with Bob Gurr. I guess Bob Gurr and his dad knew each other and stuff too. And so they were going back and forth. And again, I'm just trying to touch on all this stuff a little bit. I don't want to go into full details, but then they talked about Tomorrow's Child, the song that was the original Epcot song. And Sally Stevens was actually there. She's the one who sang that song. And she was actually there, and Tammy Tuckey and Sally Stevens sung it together. And man, everybody in the room was getting choked up like that. And this Sally Stevens, too, they went through her background a little bit. She did songs and on the Carol Burnett Show, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, the Love Boat, Happy Days. Just unbelievable. She worked with every big company you could imagine. Like she is a major player in California. Like she's not just some person who happened to sing it. Like she had a huge career and involved in stuff. Like she did even recently. She was involved in the 2018 Academy Awards. She did stuff for the Oscars. Like this lady has been she did a lot. And I guess she recently wrote a book, and it's called I Sang That, a memoir from Hollywood, because basically so many popular things she sang it. And again, I never really knew who sang Tomorrow's Child. It was Sally Stevens, and I got to hear her sing it live. So pretty crazy. I don't know if I. Yeah, there you never going to get a copyright strike. So I got to hear the actual person who sang Tomorrow's Child sing it right in front of me. So that was pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty special.
Then we went on to Horizons, and Imagineer Trevor Bryant. He went through the history of Horizons, the model making, set manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. And again, this guy, he literally loved Horizons when he worked on it too. And again, I feel like that shows through. And I at the end of his presentation, he he went through all this stuff about building it and everything that you could ever want to know about Horizons. They let him create the T-shirt at the end. They made shirts for everybody involved in putting all that stuff in Horizon, the show installation team. And it was crazy. As he was talking about this, he was choked up and crying and everything. Like, it meant so much to him. And he was saying, it changed his life being involved in that project. And, he's still to this day, it means so much to him. And he had a long career afterwards, but that was something he'll never forget. And again, I never even went on Horizons, but you can just see and feel so many people were involved that really it meant a lot to them. Nobody had their job or was trying to get any message to you or anything. It was all, they just wanted the best ride they could make. And my God. So anyway, the final one, well, the next thing they did was Journey into Imagination Revisited. If you're interested, it should be back up. It should be on Retro WDW's YouTube channel. If it's not already, it will be soon. They created a version of Journey into Imagination. And one of the Retro WDW guys, before the ride closed, well, no, that wasn't this one. That was, they have a Horizons Revisited that they did. He literally got a tripod and a camera and rode Horizons, and that's what they based their Horizons video on, which is why it's an unbelievably good thing. And these guys are actually a nonprofit, because their main thing, this is all just a hobby for them. Like, they don't get paid, but they do like take in money to buy expensive equipment to fix all of the videos, to recreate them. Like, there's like AI retouching. There's all these processes and things you can do to bring videos back to life. So anyway, they did a Journey into Imagination one. And this is the one where Tony Baxter was, watching it too. And even he said that is almost exactly the original experience, and they went through all the stuff with that too, about the they had the turntable part, and if the rides didn't come in just right, it literally would crush the cars together. And they said they did crush one car, but there's no people in it, so it's all right. But they had all kinds of problems with that one too. But so after we got the Journey into Imagination Revisited, then we got Tony Baxter, Tom Morris, Russell Brower, and Tad Stone. And, a lot of this was Tony Baxter, and they came up and were talking about the concept for Journey into Imagination. And they showed all these sketches. Like you can see, this is a sketch that I think Tony Baxter had of, an original idea. Like it's basically a dream finder type guy in the background looking through like a rainbow disc, like the pictures and stuff and sketches that they had were unbelievable. They went through, how it came to be and early sketches and, what they were thinking about doing. And again, this front one is the one they ended up using, but these are other ideas that they had, like sketches, and they were calling them Professor something or other. Like it wasn't Dream Finder yet, but they went through the whole process of naming everything. And guess where they got the name Figment from? They were watching Magnum PI. This is the 80s. And that Higgins guy, I guess something wrecked something on the property. And then he said, unless it was a figment of my imagination, he said, but I don't think figments would do that or something. And they said, a figment. And they were like, Figment, that's perfect, So they were watching Magnum PI.
That is so cool.
Figment. I was like, oh my, that is hilarious.
If you ask your mom, like, I don't know what to do, well, use your imagination. You don't have your imagination. Still, a lot of people were told that.
Yeah, that's Tony Baxter saying how special the Imagination Pavilion was because everybody has imagination. You don't need to be special. And he's like, kids, he said his mom used to tell him, you don't have any imagination. Like, so he said it's one of those things that's like a universal thing, like where they came up with the idea for imagination. I didn't even know Tony Baxter was that involved in this, but he was extremely involved in it.
Oh yeah, this was his baby. In fact, he's even volunteered to come back and work on a redo. What's that?
I was just being a jerk. Disney doesn't need that.
No, they don't. Actually, they've turned them down.
Tony Baxter is based. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even work for Disney anymore at this point.
He doesn't. No, he's retired.
Yeah, he was working on the redo of Splash Mountain, and he just left. I think he's like, these people are terrible. It's not. But anyway, he mentioned several times about Figment and the size of Figment. He said Figment is not a 7-foot tall monstrosity. He is a 2-foot tall dragon you can hold in your hand. He kept coming back to that because the new meet and greet character is a 7-foot tall monstrosity with a shrunken head. It's like, and he is not very happy about that. He's like, he can't believe. Again, he didn't specifically say it, but he kept mentioning the monstrosity. And everybody involved in it said, unlike what you see there today, like, they basically were saying it's just it's terrible right now. Let's see.
Kodak came to the table about a year and a half after all the other sponsors had been signed. So we were already in catch-up mode the day we signed the contract. And so Magnum PI was on the top.
Oh, this is Magnum PI that he's talking about.
And he had to go in the garden, and the butler was furious because all the plants were dug up.
So let's run it. We're gonna run the clip.
Oh, right. Okay. So here it is.
Yeah, this is the Magnum PI clip where Figment was created from.
What are you doing? Cleaning the old rifles again?
I'm going hunting.
Hunting? Hunting what?
The kudu bug that is roaming freely on this estate. And don't tell me it's a figment of my imagination. Figments don't eat rare tropical flowers. Mine have been decimated.
See, rare tropical flowers. That's where Figment came from.
That is really cool. I never knew that.
So yeah, he went and again he showed all these sketches too, which were original ideas. And I'm sure you knew this part, but originally the dragon was going to be green, but when Kodak was going to be the sponsor, they hated the color green because Fujifilm was green, so they didn't want green. So that's where they changed them to purple. Like you can see this old stuff though.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's a note. We will use a color other than green for Figment. They can't use green. But there's an old sketch of Figment, like making them up. So yeah, there's the purple version. Oh, and they said too they weren't sure what to do with Dreamfinder. At first, they were going to make him look like Santa Claus, like an older guy with gray hair and stuff. And then they said, no, make the hair red. They said Santa Claus already has a story. He's already have something affiliated with it. Like we want something new that that is unique, that is going to be his own thing. Like you'll remember it, you'll know it when you see it. And so they didn't make it. They ended up making it red. But this stuff too. This is him putting Figment's skin on, and he was saying about what a long process this is, and that the more you reskin something, the more you can see it, because you have to heat it to make the plastic stick and give it that shiny look. And he said there's only one other company or one other industry that uses more of this plastic than Disney. And he said the adult industry. And everybody was like, oh my, like so basically Figment is made out of that kind of plastic. But anyway, I thought that was funny. And they went through an early commercial with Figment, like Epcot's coming soon, and Dreamfinder sounded the same. Figment had an obnoxious, like weird voice and stuff. And when they saw that, they were like, they didn't have much time left, and they were like, we don't like Figment's voice. We need to recast this. And again, today I feel like they'd be like, that's good enough, who cares, whatever. So anyway, they tried all these people, and eventually, what is his name? Billy Barty or anyway, the guy, the voice of Figment, ended up when he came in, they were like, that is perfect. And he was a little person, because they thought maybe Figment should have a small voice. I'm looking it up right now just to see.
Yeah, that's his name. That's the actor, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, Billy Barty. That's the guy. So,
Yeah.
and they said something. They said Billy Barty said, not all little people are actors, but something like that. And then he's like, but I am, or something along those lines. But anyway, they said he did a fantastic job and was just perfect. Like when they heard his voice, when they heard him do the voice for it, they said they found Figment. And Tony Baxter, another bass thing, he said, when you see a problem in a ride, you can't just add more bells and whistles around it and hope nobody notices. He said you have to address it and fix it. I'm like,
yeah.
I guess that's why he doesn't work for Disney anymore, because they'd be like, just put a Moana sticker on it. I don't know.
Put a flash, like make a flash bind and a strobe light.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it did sound like he was a little more honest, where he could talk about stuff. So, but anyway, they went through the whole idea of Figment and the Dreamfinder. Step 1, he observes and collects. Step 2, he stores the things in the Dreamport. And step 3, recombines them into new creations. It's like this is their notes and coming up with the ride. of course, Amazon decided that. But yeah, a lot of these sketches, I don't know how new they, how available they are, but all I can tell you is that I have never seen them, and I thought they were pretty amazing. Like when you look at these sketches, like this is some of their earlier ideas. This is the musical portion of the ride that they had a general sketch for. Yeah, I can't tell if that's blurry or if that's Amazon. But yeah. Oh, they said too, this is back in the 80s. They put Spider-Man in the middle of one of them.
Yeah, they did. Look.
They said, notice we added Spider-Man right there in the center, in the middle of the Figment ride. So I thought that was funny. That obviously they couldn't put him in back then. Like they didn't have any rights to Spider-Man at all. But yeah, you can see all the letters down here in the middle. This is the literature section, and Spider-Man's probably there for the Spider-Man comic book.
Yeah.
Here. So this is all the music stuff. But very cool sketches. And like I said, that Spider-Man thing I thought was really cool. And they went through this ride quite thoroughly too. Oh, and one of the things they were going to do too, they wanted like crystal glass on the outside of the pyramid. And they said Disney was trying to save money at some point, and they said, we'll just make it stucco and paint it colorful. And as they started their plans to do that, I think it was Tony Baxter who actually contacted the CEO of Kodak, and he told the CEO of Kodak what their plans were, and he said, I got you. And he got on a plane and flew right down and told Disney, no, this has to be glass. So they ended up with the colorful crystal glass on it, which is why we have glass pyramids instead of just painted stucco, which is what they were trying to get away with. So again, Tony Baxter and other Imagineers working behind the scenes to stop Disney from cheaping out on stuff, So I thought that was pretty cool. There's some more original artwork. They even went through how they came up with Dreamfinder and stuff. And I honestly don't even remember at this point. There's so much information.
And heard the sound of the wind tuned to play the theme.
Oh yeah. Russell Bauer is a very interesting guy too. He was working like in the engineering department at Disney, like I think electrical engineering or something, and he overheard the Imagineers talking one day about a problem they were having with synthesizers for the Figment ride, and music is his outside hobby, like synthesizers he was very into. So he started to talk to him about it, and before he knew it, they kept asking him questions, seeing what you can and can't do, getting them involved. He got so involved that he was the one who recorded all the sounds where he stepped on the lights at the end of the Imagination and sounds. He said he ended up manually doing that. And another cool thing about him is he got a huge ovation when he mentioned the Interventions loop music.
Yeah.
Synthesizer music that everybody loves. He just made the whole thing up. It's all him.
Wow.
It was like, I don't even know that he gets credit for that. It's like,
no, that's awesome. We use that in the background of a lot of our podcasts.
Yeah, because again, the poor guy, it's not copyrighted because I don't even think they gave him credit or anything. They were like, it's just background music. But I I went home and used that for a Spaceship Earth video the next day then, which is doing great. So again, I love that background, that synthesizer music. And he's another one that literally got like choked up talking about, his involvement in making this stuff that was so important to people and stuff. And again, the amount of people, grown men with tears in their eyes was crazy. But again, that shows you how special that Epcot really was. This is, I'm sure you probably know this, but during the Spaceship Earth thing, I think they said the kid, the Roman guard who's talking to the senator, they needed another Roman voice, so they had Joe Rody fill in because he could speak Latin too. I guess he had it in college. And then there was something else. Oh, they needed a dream finder. The guy they had contracted to do it was done, but they had to make like a commercial thing. And they just said, hey, Joe Rody jumped in the dream finder costume. And this is him there, dream finders on the left. There he is floating around. It is a hilarious video. That's Joe Rody as dream
Oh, look at that.
Oh, yeah. One guy fell down. Go with it anyway. But yeah, it was.
Thank you very much. And now, if you'll kindly step off stage to your left, I'll get things ready for our next performance.
So Joe Rody was a really great Imagineer too. Like he's always willing to go the extra mile. But
yeah.
Anyway, that was about the end of it. These are the guys actually who do retro WDW, and again, it's just a passion project for all of them. They're going to meet again in 2 years. They're going to have another meet, but they get choked up about it too because they love the old parks and stuff, and they basically said all we can do is hope that Disney remembers how the great things they did, and just we can only hope they try to get back to that. But so that was the end of it. They did another. I think they sang the song from the end of Illumination. Yeah, We Go On. So they did that at the end too, with their live performance, and they did mention too. They said this panel is the only one so far that they've seen this happen. Normally, Imagineers leave the room, they come in when it's their time and stuff. He said every one of the Imagineers on this panel stayed the whole day to watch each other. They all were right there watching each other, chiming in when they can, supporting each other. And it's like they were all involved in the opening of Epcot, and they still have that team bond, like they're all there still supporting each other. And I'm like, that is really cool, like it just kind of emphasizes how special the Epcot opening stuff was. So I highly recommend you can follow Retro Magic on YouTube. They have awesome old videos that are restored, professionally restored, with everything you can imagine to try to bring them back as close to possible as original. So, but that was it. And I have to say, as you can tell, I was reluctant to even go. I was like, oh, and I hate going to these things. And again, I'm a super introverted weirdo. I basically talked to nobody the whole time. I sat by myself. I watched, but I really did enjoy it. At first I was like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this for a day, but being in the presence of these people was unbelievable. So for 2 days and a breakfast and all that, it was $160 for the ticket. I think $150, and I added 10 because it's basically a donation. Again, they pay fees, and I'm sure hotels for the Imagineers there and stuff, but they're not really doing it to make money. They said all the volunteers there, including them, paid for their own room and board and flights and everything else. They're not there. They're not like, they don't need money. They're all older guys. They have money and stuff. They just love old Disney stuff. And they were choked up too that they could bring the Imagineers in and create such an environment where they're telling stories and going through how they built all these iconic rides and attractions. And they basically said they can't believe they got to this point where they can do something like this. So, and yeah, I walked back to the parking lot again, another 1.25 mile walk. But as you can tell, I liked it a lot more than I thought, and it was unbelievable to be around that group of people. Again, except for Bob Gurr, they're all like one person removed from Walt himself. They're trained by one of Walt's guys. If didn't know Walt, they're so close to the original concept of quality and the way they do things. And there were no computers, or there were very little computers back then. And so, like I said, they're all doing stuff just like Walt Disney did it when they started. They're using models, they're using imagination. It's all the people, having good people around you, and that's what it was all about. And again, I don't know what they're doing now, but I don't know.
I tell you, I think Tony Baxter started out his career at Disney, the Disney company, as an ice cream scooper in Disneyland. So the guy, has a history. That was like one of his first jobs he ever did. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure he did meet Walt Disney over the years. I think he goes back that far, but, Bob Gurr, man, he's one of the originals, and I'm so impressed that you got to, be in that room and hear that guy talk.
The thing is, I could have met all these guys, but again, I'm such an awkward, weird, introverted person that I just sat there not talking to anybody. So, including that, I could have done it. But next time in 2025, I think I'm going to buy early, and I'm going to try to get the VIP ticket. So I don't need to say, can I get your autograph or can we get a picture? I can just say, just talk to them. That's all. I don't really need anything else. I wouldn't mind talking to them though. Just a little bit. Gotta watch my complaint. But that's about it. Cause I don't feel like I have the right to complain to them. So
yeah. Well, that is very cool, John. I appreciate you sharing that experience. What a great event.
This is supposed to be a short one, so
well, that's okay. I mean, to hear the passion and the the energy behind this event, I understand why you felt compelled to really spill so much on it. And I appreciate that. So, John, how did your social media go for the week?
Yeah, it's been hit and miss. My Universal's pretty stagnant. 145,700. No real big pops. The Facebook pretty much died on that one. Like it spiked a long time, like months ago, and then went back to nothing. Turned out I had a thing against me for unoriginal content. I hit appeal and then it went away because it's all my content. Nothing's unoriginal. But I think once you get that, it stagnates it and doesn't come back. So thank you, Meta. You're the best. But anyway, my Disney account, 141,110. That's pretty good. 23,000 on my Facebook. It's starting to slow down now, but man, I'm getting some fans on Facebook, and the kind of fans I need. I think I see older people on there saying thank you. I don't know if I'm ever going back to Disney, but I really like that you're showing me the rides. And I'm like, the one person said that they liked my video of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and they said, I don't know when we're ever getting back there, but they said, how about Ratatouille? And I'm like, I can do that. You can go right on YouTube, but if they're anything like my mom, they're gonna be like, "You what? I don't even know what that is." They finally got used to clicking with one finger in Facebook. They're not really they don't want to go any further. But if that's the case, I would love to help them out. So I like that. I think that would be very cool because my videos are perfect for old people too. Because I am old people, so it works out. Let's see. And my TikTok, 207,600 I'm up to. So that's good. There's not
Yeah.
been any real big hits. TikTok switched over to pushing the TikTok shop for the most part now instead of
Yep.
anything else, but it'll go back and I'm still getting a bonus. I don't care if the bonus shrinks to a couple hundred a month. It's fine. If they're paying me something, I'm pretty happy about that. And as of my next payment is $2,000. So yeah, I'm not complaining at all. Oh, and Facebook, my ads on my in-stream ads are like $2,300 for the past 30 days. I had somebody complain though. They were trying to watch my Illuminations video and they said, what the heck is up with these ads? I had to watch 5 different ads just to watch your video. And I was like, I said that is a lot, but I said I think they're trying to be more like YouTube where they run ads. And I said, thank you for watching it though, because they're starting to pay creators too, like YouTube. So I appreciate it. 5 is a lot though, but
Yeah. You have no control over that. They're the ones
I don't.
controlling that. So
Anyway, that's about it.
all right.
Everything's going pretty good, but yeah, definitely follow Retro WDW. And if you ever wanted to, I would say they typically do it around October 1st because it's the anniversary date. So probably around October 1st, 2025, there's going to be another one like this. And I can tell you that I am definitely going. So
Very cool. Very cool. All right, John, where can they find you online?
you can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and SeeUO on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, and you can find me at The Giant Rat, THE Giant Rat on all the socials, and that should do it for this one. We will see you on the next one.
Yeah.